Hi everyone, welcome to Morning Matcha. Today I'm here with Carly Stein, the founder and CEO of Beekeeper's Naturals. Hi.
Hey.
Thanks for coming and hanging out with us today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to learn more about Beekeeper's Naturals and also just get educated on what's going on with our bee population.
Yeah.
Tell me where you're from, and I want to hear a little bit background of how you got started, but before, who's Carly and what does she do before Beekeepers?
Yeah, so as I tell you the full story, you'll see that this company comes from such an organic place. It's really a company that wasn't meant to be a company. I didn't go into this having some very clear idea of what I wanted to do. Not a lot of kids grow up saying they want to be a beekeeper. But we'll get to all that. So I grew up in Toronto. I'm from Canada. Mm-hmm. And when I was in college, I was studying, I did a lot of sciences, but I didn't want to be a medical professional. So I thought I'd go into research. I really loved research. And then, I did a lot of, one of my internships was at the Clinton Foundation. And one of the things I did there was I led their prescription drug abuse initiative. So I've always been really passionate about sort of the dark side of pharmaceuticals and teaching people about that and overprescription and that sort of things. I think it's something that's really important, and we see a lot of it.
Are you talking Clinton, president? Okay, but how did you come to the U.S., or was that in Canada?
No, that was in New York. So they take international applicants, and I wrote a bunch of essays and applied.
And you were just really interested in being part of their initiatives. That's cool.
They had some really cool initiatives there, so that was where I wanted to do my internship. So working out there was really cool because, one, I was doing pharmaceutical research, and two, I was really exposing myself to the problems. Mm-hmm. And especially, growing up in Canada and having issues with sort of mainstream pharmaceuticals there, and then seeing the issue in the US, I was like, oh my God, this is really something serious that I'm really passionate about. And part of why I'm so passionate about it is because I have an autoimmune condition, so I can't take antibiotics. So for me, growing up, even something like a common cold was really dangerous because it could develop into something more serious.
Have you always had your autoimmune situation?
Yeah, so I can't take any antibiotics. I react to them. So something like strep throat or tonsillitis is really bad. I would be out of school for 3 weeks as a kid.
Oh my gosh.
Pretty brutal.
What is it? Can you share?
Yeah, so I have psoriatic arthritis, so my joints basically swell up, and it's been in remission for a really long time now, but antibiotics trigger it. Mm-hmm. And then I also have a really weak immune system. Okay. So, well, not anymore, but I used to. So I was just always sick, and then I couldn't take antibiotics. So I sort of turned to the natural world looking for something to cure me there. And I became really interested, and I found all of these cool superfoods. And I also ended up finding a lot of things that kind of promised the world and didn't deliver on results. So I was spending a lot of time and money I didn't have on superfoods that I was hoping would sort of be a miracle and cure me. And I became really disillusioned with the natural product industry because so much out there is marketing and, it doesn't always work the way you want it to. Mm-hmm. And I really needed something that worked. It wasn't the sort of thing where I was low energy. It was I'm sick and I need to get better and I need something that's going to kill the virus. So I sort of grew up with those things around me, and that sort of shaped a lot of who I am. And then when I was in college, I did a semester abroad. I was studying in Sweden, but I was in Italy at the time that I got sick. And I had really bad tonsillitis to the point where I could hardly breathe and I was going to have to come home.
Wow.
So I was like, no, this is not happening again. I have missed out on everything because I'm always sick, and I just don't want to cut this exchange short. I busted my ass waitressing to be out there, and I didn't want to leave. Mm-hmm. So I went into a pharmacy in Italy, and the pharmacist took one look at me, and my face was crazy swollen, and she gave me propolis. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
And she was like, it's from the bees. And I was like, oh, okay, honey. And she's like, no, propolis. So I didn't know the bees did anything beyond honey at that time, but I was really sick and I was desperate and willing to try anything. So I tried this propolis stuff, and it's in a no-name tincture.
Those are the best.
I know. But in about 5 days, I made a full recovery, which had never happened to me before.
How much propolis did you eat take in?
A lot. I was taking a lot of propolis. I went through a tincture pretty much in 5 days. I was dropping it into water and just drinking it.
And it cured you.
It fully cured me. And it was just really, for me, that was a profound experience because I had never experienced taking something and actually experiencing recovery. And, you know, for even things like UTI, like when people get these different viral issues, they take antibiotics and it gets them better pretty quickly, but that's just not something that's accessible to me. So when I tried propolis and it actually worked, it was just such a game changer, and I didn't have an adverse reaction. And even stuff in the natural channel, sometimes I'd react to it. So that was super cool. And that was sort of my introduction to bee products.
In high school?
That was in college.
Oh, in college, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
In college, on your exchange program in Italy.
Exactly.
Wow.
So that was my first time doing that. I continued my semester abroad. I traveled everywhere, and you know how Europe's really progressive with natural products compared to North America?
Yeah, definitely.
So it was really interesting because I had this propolis experience. I started to just notice things. So in Copenhagen, I was getting like bee pollen on my smoothies, and in France, I noticed that there was royal jelly and all of these ingestible beauty products for anti-aging, and I just started learning about the different components of the beehive and how they can play into your health. And I started using all these products, and I was feeling better than ever. I didn't get sick for the rest of my time abroad, and I was not leading the healthiest lifestyle. So it was pretty remarkable. Propolis really changed my immune system.
Wow. Okay, so will you take a minute to share with us what the difference is between propolis and royal jelly and even pollen for people and where you take it from?
For sure. So I'll talk about it as well. I'll say like what how they function in the hive, and then how we use them too, because that might make it a little easier. Because it's a whole world of bee products. So I'll start with honey. Everyone knows that. So honey, it's the main carb source for the bees, and it's collected from floral nectars. So they basically have this long tube-like tongue. They go from flower to flower, and they suck up the honey, and they store it in their honey stomach, which is basically a nectar backpack. And then in the hive, it ferments. They evaporate all the water out with their wings, and it turns to honey. And it's literally their carbs. It's their main energy source.
So when they're buzzing, that's them evaporating the water out? Well, like buzzing near their hive?
The sound of, they're doing it inside the hive. So they'll put the nectar into the comb, and then they'll fan it. Yeah, they just buzz though. But yeah, so it's the energy source for the bees. And then for humans, it's really high in antioxidants. It does have antiviral components as well. Topically, it's a humectant, so it's really great for restoring moisture to the skin. And this is something people don't know about honey, and it's kind of my favorite thing. It's really great for helping you sleep. So when you have honey, it allows tryptophan. It causes a slow, steady spike in insulin, not the same sort of spike that you get from sugar, which just sort of rockets you from cane sugar. Honey has a lower glycemic index, but it still causes a bit of a spike. So it causes sort of a slow, steady spike in insulin, which allows the tryptophan to cross the blood-brain barrier, where it's converted into serotonin and then melatonin in the dark. So honey's actually really great to take before bed.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like just in some tea.
Yeah,
as a nightcap. So
I
good.
actually do like a teaspoon. I use our CBD honey, so I'll do a teaspoon of that with like a pinch of Himalayan salt.
Yum.
Yeah, it's a great thing before bed, and the salt as well helps with absorption. And then the other reason honey's really good before bed is because, and this typically happens with women, sometimes they'll wake up in the middle of the night because the glycogen stores in their liver are depleted. So their brain sort of signals a crisis search for fuel, and it will wake them up. So having honey, because it's a slow release, it's much slower release, it basically helps to stop glycogen stores and helps your liver repair overnight. So it can help you sleep.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Someone actually was just talking about how they're keto and how they wake up in the middle of the night and that's their liver detoxing. And then now that you're saying it's actually their liver possibly just saying, I need fuel.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's actually, there's, we were just at the Bulletproof conference, and someone was telling me how Dave Asprey, or the Bulletproof thing, they did a whole post about taking honey before bed. Because it is hard if you're keto, because of course honey is still a sugar, but yeah, you don't want to disrupt your sleep cycle.
No. Yeah. I mean,
that's the whole body needs that to reset. So so that's a little hack with honey. It can help you sleep. It's also really high in enzymes. It's the only food on the planet that never goes bad, which is a testament to its enzyme quality. And it's just like the healthiest sweetener. It's full of antioxidants. And
it's so delicious.
Yeah, it's so good.
So, okay, next.
So that's honey. That's the first one. That's easy. Then propolis, which is my favorite because propolis really changed my life. So propolis you can think of as the medicine of the hive. So while honey's collected from floral nectars, propolis is collected from plant and tree resins. So think of things like sap or like pine pollen, the sort of resins from the tree. So a little bit more adaptogenic of a base ingredient. and then they mix it with their enzymes, and they use it to line the entire hive and keep it germ-free.
The inside of the hive.
Oh, yeah. Like, all the walls are lined with propolis. And then for newborn baby bees, they'll line the cell wall to create a sterile environment for newborns.
Aww.
Yeah. And
how are they born?
They put like little larvae into cells, and then they
evolve.
Yeah. So the propolis creates like the sterile lining. And then my favorite thing about propolis is just like a fun propolis fact. Let's say an intruder gets into the hive like a mouse. The bees can kill it and sting it, but they can't physically pick up a dead mouse and carry it out of the hive. And just like us, if there's a dead thing in your living room, it's going to cause a lot of disease. And so what the bees will do is they'll mummify the dead mouse in propolis, and it's that powerful of an antibacterial, antimicrobial substance that it protects the entire hive from a decaying rodent in their living room. So it's super antibacterial, antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, and it functions.
Just the thought of that, like, can we take a second to think about that? Because you don't think about a mouse getting into a hive, right? I mean, I don't, or unless something knocked it down and then the hive has to, I don't know, move out or whatever happens to the bees, which you have to educate me on. But I've never thought about a hive continuing on with its life and just going on with its life with a dead mouse inside, but it's not causing anyone any harm.
Yeah, it's fully encased in propolis.
Does that happen often, do you think?
Yeah, because there's like honey and pollen, lots of stuff for other predators to eat in the hive.
Yeah, so...
I mean, I've been beekeeping and seen it.
Yeah, so your own bees.
I one time thought it was just a cluster of propolis, and I was really excited, and I picked it up. And then my mentor at the time was like, you're not going to like what that is, because I'm very scared of rodents.
Yeah.
The thing too, this is like painful for me to even think about, but sometimes when I'm beekeeping, I'll like scrape a little bit of propolis off and just chew on it, because it mixes with the beeswax and it's almost like gum.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what I would have done with what I thought was a chunk of propolis.
No, you were like, let me just put it in my mouth, and then it's a dead, mummified mouse.
At that time I had like my whole suit on too, so it was like kind of far away, and I had the mask, so it wasn't.
Wow.
But yeah.
Good thing you had your mentor there. Okay, so that's amazing about propolis.
Yeah, it's really cool too. It's kind of like the OG antibiotic. Like, this isn't, I definitely did not create this. This is not a new thing. Humans have been using propolis since 300 BC. Yeah, so propolis, it's not new. I didn't like create this by any means. And we've been using propolis, humans have been using propolis to heal since 300 BC. So that's the first recorded human use of propolis. Hippocrates used it. Aristotle is thought to have coined the term propolis, which means defender of the city. Cleopatra used it. It was used in the mummification process. And in the 17th century, it was actually listed in the London Pharmacopoeia as an official drug. So we have this really rich healing history with propolis.
Yeah.
And I think just as we've kind of moved away from natural and moved towards pharmaceuticals, we've lost sight of that. And now we're sort of moving back. And the other thing, too, is although we have this really rich healing history with propolis, it never really made its way to North America. Honeybees aren't native to North America. So when they were brought over here, sort of some of the nuances of beekeeping were sort of lost.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you were going to also tell us about pollen or what? Royal jelly.
Yeah, pollen and royal jelly. So propolis, just to kind of sum it up, it's an immune booster, and you can use it every day. I use it every single day, and then if I'm sick or run down or traveling or just like anything that compromises my immune system, I'll just double dose. It's a really safe substance. It's also anti-inflammatory and prebiotic, so it's really good for things like colitis, leaky gut, any digestive issues. And it tastes sweet, but our propolis spray is actually keto. And it's really great for candida because it contains a compound called pinosembrin, which acts as a fungicide in the body. So propolis does a lot. It's kind of like your all-in-one protector.
Mm-hmm. And you guys have sprays.
We do it in a spray just because, one, I like when it's like more bioavailable when you have sort of liquid in your mouth. But two, it's really soothing and anti-inflammatory. So if somebody does have a sore throat, which is what I have dealt with a lot, they can use the spray and it will sort of soothe the area on contact. And then you see a lot of people using it topically as well. Things like viral things like herpes, cold sore sort of stuff. Oh. But also if you cut or scrape yourself or you get a bug bite, you can use propolis. Topically, amazing. Yeah. If you ever burn yourself, honestly use propolis. It's amazing.
I've done toothpaste or salt, but I haven't used propolis.
Like, your you're going to
That's my
like
go-to.
tell me after you use it, you're
Yeah.
going to be like, holy shit.
Oh my gosh.
It works really well because it's just super anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
So yes,
wow.
so propolis is kind of my favorite thing.
I love it. Okay.
And then royal jelly is really interesting too. So royal jelly, it's been used across cultures for so many different things. A lot of people use it for anti-aging. It's really high in antioxidants. It's got fatty acids. And then it's also really great for fertility. In TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, people use royal jelly to balance hormones. Like we have a few practitioners, the first thing they do when they take people off birth control is they put them on Bee Powered, which is our superfood honey. It's just got all the different hive superfoods in it. Good for balancing hormones. But then in the Western world, the main focus on royal jelly has been on the brain. So royal jelly, so really amazing for focus, memory, concentration. Great for concussion healing, that sort of thing. A study actually came out from University of Warsaw, and it found that regular consumption of royal jelly improves your spatial reasoning. So really great. You see, like, we have like a lot of athletes who use it, and the reason royal jelly works on the brain, just to get into the science of it for a second, royal jelly is really high in acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter responsible for brain-body connection. So it literally helps to speed up your transmission system. And then it also contains a fatty acid called 10-HDA, and this fatty acid is only naturally occurring in royal jelly, and it acts as a catalyst for neurogenesis. So it literally helps your brain to create fresh, new, healthy brain cells.
Wow. And because it's a fatty acid, is that why it's like brain food?
Well, the specific fatty acids, there's two. It's 10-HDA and AMP-N1 oxide. Those two really contribute to neurological health. Like they basically promote BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So you can think of it as like getting very specific neurological functions going.
And that's why you're able to build such an incredible company, because you're just like high off the best superfoods
I just found some really good stuff, pretty much.
You're like, oh my gosh, I can literally learn any language in 5 seconds if I wanted. I can do anything I ever want. Okay, so royal jelly, where is it in the hive though?
So royal jelly, I'm happy you asked that because people ask that all the time, and I forgot to mention that one. So royal jelly, it's the food for the queen bee. So all newborn bees for the first 3 days of development are given royal jelly. And
gosh, it's like our colostrum.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool.
And then after 3 days, the little bees are transitioned off of royal jelly onto pollen and honey. And only the bee who's meant to become the queen continues with royal jelly and exclusively eats that. And the queen bee lives 3 to 5 years versus a regular worker bee during foraging season lives 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so her lifespan is way longer.
That's
and then the
crazy.
queen bee, regular worker bees don't have reproductive organs, whereas the queen bee will lay, 1,500 babies a day. So fertility
She's the
is
only
on
one?
point. Yeah.
That's
Yeah, and she's much more robust too. I'll show you a picture after of what the queen bee looks like.
see.
But it's really interesting because in nature, royal jelly causes some major body changes to the queen. So,
like how so?
I mean, just lifespan, physically, she's much more robust, and then fertility.
That's amazing. Wow. Okay. I can't wait to look into all the beehive stuff, everything. I can't believe, I feel bad for the worker bees that they can't reproduce.
I know.
But I guess
it's okay.
They only live 6 weeks, so.
During foraging season, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What about after?
In the winter, they'll hibernate. But if it's not a place where there's winter, they'll work all around.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you schooled us on that. We should go into pollen really quick.
Yeah. So pollen, it's the protein source of the hive. That's literally how it's used, and the bees will collect pollen from flower to flower, mix it with their enzymes, and bring it back. And pollen actually has more protein per weight than any other source. So more, and it's per weight, and pollen's small, but more per weight than eggs, cheese, meat. So really, really great for protein. And then it's also really high in broad spectrum vitamins. So I like to think of pollen as a natural, super absorbable multivitamin.
Okay, amazing. So, and bees, worker bees, live off just pollen.
They'll eat pollen and honey.
And honey. Okay. Cool. You're in Italy. Propolis cured you after 5 days, and you feel incredible. And then you go on to travel and go to Copenhagen, have pollen on things, and just start kind of educating yourself.
Trying all these bee products. Yeah. And so, I really just kind of became obsessed, and I was feeling better than ever using bee products for everything and just learning all about it.
And you told your parents, I'm sure.
Yeah. My parents were like, okay, enough. But I was really, really excited about it. And then I came back home to finish up school. I had 1 year left, 1 year left. And midterms rolled around, and I ran out of all the bee products that I brought home from Europe, and I got really bad strep throat. And so I needed to get propolis. And I went to a bunch of different health food stores. Nobody really knew what I was talking about. And then finally I found propolis at a farmer's market, and I bought this like beautiful organic artisanal propolis. It was like $40 for like that much. And I used it, and I had a really severe allergic reaction.
Wow.
And I found out that it was because there was pesticides in the product, even though it was organic. And that's a huge issue with bee products today, because bees are not like cattle where you can fence them in. They'll fly. So just because their home is on certified organic land, they'll forage for a 5-mile radius. So if they fly next door and to, you know, the dirty flowers and GMO crops, they'll bring that stuff back. So for people who have allergies or are autoimmune, or people who are just trying to get healthy, I don't think they should be exposing themselves to pesticides. And the truth is, bee products are so nourishing that, and so much of what we eat has trace amounts of pesticides. For most people, it probably won't do much, but I just really think if you can get a fully clean product, you should. And then also from a sustainability standpoint, we want to get the bees away from pesticides. So if there's impetus to create products that are pesticide-free, then we're going to be supporting our bee population. But I'll get to all that stuff. So I finally find propolis, I take it, and I basically break out in hives all over my body. Looks like adult chicken pox. It was not fun. And then
Did you know that's what it was?
No, so I had the benefit of being a student at the time. And I was a TA for my chem class, and so I ended up basically testing the propolis.
Oh, wow.
And I found different chemicals in it. And so I was like, okay, I know that propolis works for me. I cannot find it in the quality that I need, so I guess I just have to start beekeeping. And I was in Canada at the time, so and I went to school in British Columbia, so I actually could like work with bees in the middle of nowhere. So I basically...
Were you not terrified?
I was more terrified of being sick all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I got online, I found the local beekeeping association, I reached out, I was looking for a mentor, and I found this guy he's a 3rd-generation beekeeper and a retired biochemist from Romania, who basically moved to Canada to like be a recluse and work with the bees.
I love it.
And then I started annoying him, so kind of threw a curveball to him. But yeah, so I got in touch with him, and I was like, I just want to buy propolis from you. Can I do this? And he was like, yeah, sure. You can buy raw bee products from me, but I'm not going to like package them. You're going to be buying like Ziploc bags. And I was like, yeah, fine. That's great. So I go over to do my first propolis pickup, and that was the first time I saw an apiary, which is it's a bee farm essentially. And the second I saw that, I was actually not scared at all. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
Wow. What's it like? How big was it?
I mean, he only had 10, 20 hives, but he was also in a beautiful space. He was like in the middle of the forest. He had like a log cabin. It was very picturesque. But I was really just interested in what the bees were doing, and I've always been really into nature. And
yeah, and you have the science background too, so you like both probably.
Yeah, I really like all that stuff. But I was just really captivated by the hive and eager to learn more about these products. And he also had a science background, and he was just the exact type of person I could learn from. So I basically was like, hey, I will work for you for free, whatever you need. I just really want to learn about this. And I became his apprentice, and on Saturday and Sunday I would go work with the hives, and he would teach me a bunch of stuff, and then I would use my university database and use the lab and start testing stuff out and, you know, reading the research that was out there. This is in 2012, so it's before beekeeping was like kind of cool and hipster. My friends thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
But I just really fell in love with the stuff, and I was changing my health, and that was the time when I really started making products and perfecting products, and again, not thinking about a company at all, just trying to make the best possible products for me. And I started sharing them with people, giving them to friends, roommates, and then next thing you know, I had random people on campus Facebook messaging me to buy these products.
Wow. Slinging propolis and other products on campus. I love it.
Pretty much. I was a drug dealer. But people were, you know, buying these products, and it was working for them. So I was like, okay, this is like a meaningful population. It's not just me.
Yeah.
This is a real thing. I think this stuff works. And that was sort of my first thought of starting a company. But then I was like, no. I didn't study business. I have no idea how to start a company. I don't know how to do this, and I'm broke as fuck. So I got a job offer out of college at a hedge fund. A lot of hedge funds will hire researchers out of the Clinton Foundation.
Really?
And so I got a job as a researcher at a hedge fund, and I took that job.
What did you do there?
Pharmaceutical research.
Oh, okay.
And then I actually moved into a bit more of sort of client-facing role as I was there. And I was only there for 10 months, and then I got recruited by Goldman Sachs, and I joined them as a trader. And so I found myself, so very different from what I sort of wanted. So I was working on the trading floor at Goldman Sachs, and it was a great learning experience. But it
what
was
were you
just
trading?
Mostly equities, but I did a little bit of options and derivatives. But it was just not what I wanted, and I was sort of just taking the next steps that looked good on paper. And I had this. It was a really interesting time in my life because I was receiving more external positive validation than ever, because when you're in New York and you work at Goldman, people are just like, oh, you're smart. But I was doing something that I didn't feel fulfilled by, and I was surrounded by people who are driven by things that I'm not driven by. And I felt like and I was also working insane hours.
And not with the bees.
Not with the bees.
So where were your products?
They were not, I was like shipping, Andreas, one of my mentors, was shipping me raw product, and I bought Amazon lab equipment and was making stuff in my apartment for myself.
That's amazing.
But yeah, I was in this really interesting place. So I became really depressed. Just, I think when you're living out of line with what's authentic to you, that happens. But I also felt really caught in this job. I was making really good money. I was on a really good career trajectory. I had this life that made sense to everyone around me. I was quote unquote successful, but I was really unhappy. I wasn't sleeping. I was working constantly. And I just became really depressed. And it got to a point where I was like, this is not sustainable. And so I sat down and I made a spreadsheet about it, because that's what I know how to do.
So George Bush, when he was president and not fulfilling his art career.
Yeah, I guess. So I made a spreadsheet about happiness, and I was trying to identify the points in time that I was the happiest, and I kept coming back to the bees and building bee products. And I was, again, didn't have the confidence to start a company, but I was like, you know what? This can be my cool, weird hobby. I have all the equipment. I can just source products. I know I have the right connections for that, and I can just make products, and I'll make them for friends and family for their birthdays. You have that aunt or something who's like an amazing baker, or that someone who makes candles.
With bees,
I was like, I'll be that.
Products.
And then really quickly I would rush home from work excited to make bee products and start researching things. And I started making a lot, and then I started standing at farmers markets on weekends.
In New York?
In New York and Toronto.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I would do any sort of pop-up things I could. In Toronto, it was an easy flight, and I was dating someone in Toronto at that time too, so I was flying back all the time. And then I started, so I was flying around, basically just going through the motions at my day job, but really obsessed with these bee products. And my day job carried over into the night most times. It was really long, so I don't even know how I slept at that time.
Yeah, because starting your business and having maybe a 9 to 5, okay, a lot of people do that, but yours is just nonstop.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy, and I wasn't calling it a business at that time. It was my hobby, and people thought it was nuts. What Goldman Sachs trader stands at farmers markets on the weekends? So I was always very scared of somebody I work with or someone's wife seeing me at the market. So I was always just really nervous, and but anyway, so I started doing that, and then it was an amazing experience because I got direct customer feedback. I was literally standing at booths and talking to people and teaching them about it and sharing it with them, and they'd come back the next week or whenever I did another pop-up and tell me how things are going. And all of a sudden I was getting these really incredible stories. I remember one woman was telling me about her 6-year-old son who had some sort of chronic illness, and nothing worked for him, and propolis did. And so that was really cool. And then people were like, hey, my sister-in-law who has eczema is in Chicago. Can you send stuff there? Can you do this? And I was like, okay, well, I guess I have to set up a website.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you have any sort of website or social media at this point?
No, nothing.
Wow.
So I just reflexively set that up, and it started growing. And then I was spending a lot of time in Toronto also because I could go a little harder with selling there.
Did you have help at all? Did anyone help you?
No.
Okay, can I take a second to just acknowledge how remarkable you are? Because you have a full-time career. You're doing this as your hobby. Yes, it brings you joy. And yes, it's like what sustains you to like keep doing all the things that you're doing. But you also, I mean, on the weekends, on your time off, you're spending your time at farmers markets in places that have severe weather conditions. I mean, New York and Toronto. Cold, yeah. And then hauling in probably all your stuff. Setting up a farmer's market booth is, I mean, just all of it.
It was a lot. I would like recruit friends sometimes and boyfriends and stuff like that. But it was definitely a lot. But I was so excited about the bee products, and what kept happening, I kept being like, okay, I'm going to scale back now. Like, it's really fun, but this is a lot to juggle. And then I would get this incredible customer story, and it would like throw me right back in it a lot harder. So I started selling in Canada, and it got to a point where, and I connected with a distribution company, and they wanted to take us on. So I was like, okay, I need to find co-packers and do all this now. So I set all of that up.
And when is this? What year is this?
This is like end of 2016, sort of. Yeah, this is like...
And you're still at Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, this is close to this is like right as I'm leaving Goldman. So we got taken on by a distribution company, and then all of a sudden we were in 600 retail locations across Canada and Whole Foods and all of that. And it got to a point,
who's this distribution company? Like they're
called EcoTrend. And then at that point too, my best friend who was an M&A lawyer, he started doing a lot of help on the legal side. Because everything we've done is NPN certified. There's a lot of legality that goes into
NPN
supplement.
Is what?
Natural product number.
Okay.
So this is another really interesting thing. In the US, it's FDA, and then it's like Wild West. There's no regulatory structure for natural, which...
Outside of or just inside of even?
In the US.
Okay.
Yeah, it's other countries. So it's really bad because then you get these products that are like beautifully designed and have really great marketing and brands, but they don't actually do anything for you, which is a problem. So in Europe and Canada and other parts of the world, there's a regulatory structure. So because I found a co-packer in Canada and I was producing my products in Canada and sourcing from Canadian apiaries, because there's also better pesticide regulation there, I wanted to do it all there. And I really, because I had the experience of like buying expensive things that just didn't work, I really wanted to make products that would be functional for the broadest population possible. So I begged my best friend Daniel to help me for free with legal stuff because I could not afford a lawyer. I was basically funneling my salary. Like getting a co-packer, you have to have minimum orders. Yeah. So I literally would put all my savings into this company. I mean, I was living
buying
like a
different
student.
kinds of bottles, or I mean, every little thing, labels, bottles. You have to do.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
It was
Shipping.
it was so much that I was living like a broke student when I was
not.
Yeah.
So, you didn't need to be whatsoever.
I made myself though because I literally put all my money into the company. So Daniel started helping me with the legal, and Daniel actually now he's our COO and he's amazing, and I could not do anything without him. But he had a really interesting experience because I've always been into natural. But he was very like drinking Diet Coke and eating cheeseburgers and thinking that I'm a dumb millennial spending money I don't have at Whole Foods. So he really came at this with a critical eye. And he was like, whatever, I'll help you because you're my best friend. And then as he's going through getting our NPNs, he has to go over all the research. And he was like, he wouldn't even try the product at first. So after he sees the research, he's like, okay, this is legit. And he's also articling at a major law firm at the time, so he's always sick. And he would go to CVS and just like go like that to the cold and flu aisle and spend $50 on everything that masks the symptoms and does nothing for your health.
Yeah.
And he tried propolis one of the times he got sick, and he came back to me the next day and he's like, hey, this took away my sore throat. And I was like, yeah. He's like, I think it works. And I was like, yeah.
You're like, thanks for finally trying it, but thanks for believing in me and working on it either way.
Yeah. And then he came to me and he's like, hey, I really believe in this now and I want to be a part of the company. And at that point, like this, I mean, it is my baby, but I was like still sort of unsure of what was happening. And I was like, look, I get that you've got the MBA and the law degree and all of that, but we're a sustainability driven company and I need everyone in senior management at this early stage to be a beekeeper, and you don't have any beekeeping experience, so I'm sorry. And he went out and did an apprenticeship course in beekeeping and came back to me 3 months later, and he's like, hey, I can keep bees now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay, that's dedication, and I love you, and you're amazing. And he joined the team, and he was our first addition. So it was just him and I at that time, and he is such an asset. He's incredible.
That's amazing. Yeah. He sounds just so dedicated.
He's the best. Yeah. He's like my brother. We're super tight. But yeah, so that's sort of. And
that's like 2017 now?
That's it. So we're still end of 2016. Mm-hmm. So what happened at that point, the company got to a point where it really did need someone to run it full time. And I was like, it's got to be me. Like, this is what I really want to do. And so then I had another wave of challenge, because I started sort of floating this idea with friends and people around me and mentors, and they're like, are you fucking insane? You're going to walk away from this great job to start a bee product company? And if you think about it too, it's not like I said clean beauty or raw chocolate or like a word that made sense to people. When you say bee products, people are confused. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, oh, like honey? And I'm like, no, not honey. And they're like, so what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm like, propolis, royal jelly, pollen, and they're like, what are those words? Mm-hmm. So it was really hard because I was really scared, and I had really put all my savings into it. Mm-hmm. And I was leaving something that looked like a stable path, and everyone I trusted, well, not everyone, but most people I trusted told me that I would fail, that it's a very bad idea, that I should stick to what I'm doing, and that it would be a major mistake. And it takes a lot of confidence
to trust your gut and intuition,
take a leap like that. So I sort of went back and forth for a while. I was having really severe panic attacks, actually, and it got pretty bad. And then I was just like, I need to do this. Mm-hmm. This is what I have to do. If I completely fail, I'm young. I can recover. I can, I
think that's such a good way of looking at it.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? If I don't do this, I know that I will always regret it. And I don't love my day-to-day. And this is something that drives me. I'm passionate about this. Mm-hmm.
And you have all those customers that, they each have such an amazing story that you were saying that kept you going, and that it helps people, and it's just all about trying to educate.
100%.
And education is, not easy, of course.
Definitely challenging.
Yeah.
But I knew I had something that worked. I knew it was helping people. I had experienced a life change from it, and I loved it. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, you know what, I have to do this. And then I took the last bit of money I had and booked a plane ticket to Indonesia, because I had to get away from everyone. Everyone thought I was insane. Everyone was telling me it was a mistake.
Why Indonesia?
I wanted to go to Europe, but living there, it was too expensive. Indonesia, you can find really cheap
living.
And I found, like I said, I did a lot of research. I found a good co-work space to work out of. I was living in like a closet basically, but it was fine because I was never in my closet. I was like, working on this in a beautiful setting.
But hold on, so you moved there to start Beekeeper?
Yeah, because I had to get away from everyone who was telling me that I was insane and throwing away my life.
What about Dan or Daniel?
He was still working at the law firm.
Okay.
So he was doing stuff with me on the side, and I would talk to him every day, but he wasn't about to leave the law firm yet.
Yeah.
So I spent 3 months in Southeast Asia. And I basically put together a product roadmap. I made some other products, brought some new SKUs to market, and put together a fundraising plan. And then I came back. I was back in New York, and thank God for my best friend, because I couldn't afford to pay rent. Mm-hmm. So I slept on his couch for 6 months.
Wow.
In like a small New York apartment. We opened a round and we raised money, and that was a year ago, maybe a little more.
And okay, so let's go back to that though, because just saying like we raised money, there's so much that goes into it. And obviously you did all your homework when you were in Indonesia and you came back and you were ready for it, but who do you contact? Who helped you do the raise?
So I did an angel round. So I had a lot of high net worth individuals, because I was working in finance before. I was connected to some of the right people.
And how do you hit them up and say, hey, you hit them up saying, hey, I started a company. I'd love to tell you about it if you're interested. Mm-hmm. So you say, I started it already, not like I have this idea.
Yeah.
You're like, this is what I'm doing.
Because I had started it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people raise on concept. For me, like, I mean, we had proof of concept. We had meaningful sales. We were in a couple hundred accounts.
Yeah, you were already in Whole Foods, right?
Yeah, we were actually profitable at the time that we raised.
Yeah, that's a big deal. That's really great.
Yeah, so there was some stuff that made it a bit easier.
So from Indonesia, you were able to manage all of your distribution accounts because your distributor basically did all that, or
the distributor managed accounts. To work with the distributor, I had to get into 50 accounts direct. So at that, like before we were with the distributor, I would fly to Toronto on weekends with a backpack full of product, and I would go into like every single store and just beg them to take it on. And I actually got us into Whole Foods because I LinkedIn stalked the Whole Foods buyers.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, back when they were in the store,
and I sent them, I would literally harass them, send them product, and I sent one of them this basket of like all the foods that are bee pollinated. And he's the one who got us in. He really liked that, and he was like, he appreciated how sustainability driven we are and how we work with bees in a different way. But yeah, so I had a lot of sort of, turnkey pieces. I had the right co-packers. I had, and I mean, I didn't have the right connections in a sense because I didn't like know people who invested in CPG. I just knew a few of the right people, and you go to one right person and you really explain to them what you're doing, and you go to them. Like I went to my first one right person with a deck, with a financial plan, with a really, I anything that he asked me, because he was super skeptical, anything that he asked me, I was like prepared to answer.
Do you think he invested in you or the company?
In me. He had no idea what the company was. And then I had a few people who got involved in the round who had worked with me previously when I was in finance, and they had no fucking clue what I was doing, but they knew that I'm an OCD workaholic. And so they're like, she'll probably
do something.
Yeah, so she probably will like not completely mess it up because she's too insane.
Or she'll just like be so annoying that I'm gonna have to give her this money anyways because she's not gonna stop. No, I'm kidding.
No, that was probably it too. But yeah, and so that started happening. And once I spoke to one person, and I think too for a company that was at early stage, I came at people with just really ready, like a really good deck, a really, And so that sort of created a flow. And once one person puts money in, they're like, ooh, I want all my friends now to invest to validate what I just did.
So they tell their friends about it.
Yeah.
What about, how did you know how to value your company? Just from being...
I mean, working at Goldman definitely helped, but I was working with public markets. So totally different than startup. Like the type of financials I was looking at were very, very different. I did a lot of reading online. Like everything's accessible. I listened to a lot of podcasts. Venture Deals is a really good book for somebody who's totally new to it. Just it's really like going over basics. And AngelList has a good blog. Yeah.
So you just you figured it out all on your own.
Yeah. I mean anyone can. That makes me sound super smart. I'm not.
All
of the information's out there. I did a good job of really sort of curating and finding what I needed, and
And you came back, you raised what you needed.
Yep.
Have you only done one round?
We've only done one round, yeah.
And are you planning on doing more?
We'll probably do another round in the next 6 months. But it's been a really big year for us. We went from 1 employee to 16 people full time.
This year?
Yeah.
Well, last year, 2018 or...
Yeah, no, this year, last year, 2018. Yeah.
Wow, 1 to 16.
Daniel left the law firm to become our COO.
Amazing.
And we have 16 people now who are amazing.
And now you're going off to spread propolis everywhere. That's awesome. I'm so excited. I feel like I found out about your company about a year or two. When did you get into Air One?
Probably a year ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I saw it like at the Tonic Bar or something, like right up there. And maybe here and there, I mean, just being in the same industry, but I was so intrigued by it. And then I tried it and I thought it was great. And then, I think I just like learned more and more about you, and our paths just hadn't crossed, but just seeing it evolve and grow. And then actually you guys at our market, we did like a little holiday market, and then you guys were part of it, and I loved trying the honey, and yeah, just now hearing your story, it's just so beautiful, and meeting you and knowing just how passionate you are about it and how it's really helped your personal, like you personally, tremendously, and your autoimmune condition. It's just amazing that you're spreading that word, because I think about spreading the word about propolis and everything, because I think I went to school and studied business, and there was this one case study on Patron, and just tequila in general, and how Patron is really the company that educated the masses on like how to drink tequila, and then all the other companies like came, and because they paved the way and educated people on this is how we drink tequila, but you're the one paving the way. Really, I think so. For most people, it's like, I heard of propolis, I knew that it was good for you, but I just didn't know where it came from or what it was or how the whole process works. And I mean, it's amazing to hear it from you.
Thank you so much. That's really what we're trying to do. We're really trying to show people that there actually are other effective options out there, and there's a lot of different amazing things that come from the beehive. And our whole thing, we're trying to reinvent the medicine cabinet and give people true alternatives, not just like add this green powder and maybe you'll get sick less, but things that you can use as a swap. You can use in place of whatever junky cold and flu product you're taking, and you can use when you need to boost your memory and you're studying for an exam, and you can use to support energy levels or to improve sleep. So that's kind of our bread and butter, and we're really passionate about it. And at this point too, our team is amazing, and everybody has really come at this with a genuine passion. And that's now like really what drives me. Yeah,
the team, so important. I love that. Well, I mean, I'm definitely going to be on a propolis royal jelly kick if it gets me anywhere near how smart you are. So I hope everyone takes it.
I'm excited for Truth to Turn too, so you can use the kids' propolis, because that one's really amazing as well.
That'll be really fun. Thank you so much. It was so wonderful to meet you.
Thank you.